Shan, and I sure am excited to hear her tonight. She is a bright ray of sunshine in an area that can be a bit gloomy sometimes. And I really appreciate our friendship, and it's my high honor to introduce Shannon. Take it away. Have some fun.
Thank you, Sam. My name is Shannon. I'm an alcoholic. And I really appreciate you asking me to share today. And of course, I was like, oh gosh, what do I do? And he said, well, read the letter a couple of times and tell a couple of stories, because I'm used to hanging out with some people who do workshops, and my husband who has been on this path for a long time before me, and a lot of heavy hitters that I know, and I'm always just like, well, what do I know about this? And I gotta admit, sometimes I'm not taking a lot of this seriously. So I'll admit it, though. Actually, people know that about me. I'm actually having a lot of fun in Alcoholics Anonymous. And this idea about the emotional sobriety, daily, it's different. Some days, like, I feel like I'm rocking it. Most days I feel like I am. I have a real lust for life. I have a real zeal, for what's going to happen next. Even when I was drinking, I was just like, even when I was super like all the way at the bottom, I was still like, never. The thought of killing myself was never part of it. I just was too curious about what's going to happen tomorrow. It just always has been, the way, just the way I am. I don't suffer from severe depression. When I first got into Alcoholics Anonymous, I was prescribed some antidepressants. And after getting off those, after about a year or so, I realized that I was falsely prescribed, which is, maybe I needed them at first, but I'm not clinically depressed in any way. But I do suffer from other things that were brought up in the letter. And Sam was so nice. He said, read the letter a couple of times. So I was like, okay, I'll read the letter a couple of times. And I've read the letter before, and I've actually led a meeting on it before, but really that's it. And my sobriety date is 6/9/96. That's 24 years. So thank you for this opportunity to venture in and actually have the time to think about this. As I prepared and got to think about this, I did get to review, what am I doing? How do I feel? Do I have like these, do I have this dependence upon people, like for my security, my well-being? Am I highly dependent on others? And I am married, so I feel like we have a really great partnership. Kenny was asking me yesterday, he says, who's the manager of the house? And I'm like, well, me. Yeah, I know where everything is. And you just ask, okay, it's back behind, in the pantry, in the garage, back against the wall. I know where everything is. So I'm pretty well managing, the show here. But relationship wise and maneuvering through our relationship, we're pretty equal, and we've had a great we've had a great experience in our relationship. I mean, I never thought I deserved this. I never thought I deserved a life like this. I'm a real alcoholic. I drink, I smoke, I do whatever it is. Just give me something that's mind altering. I was raised by a dad who, was an alcoholic dad. My mom and dad got divorced when I was around 9 years old. And, I'm embarrassed. One of the things that came up for me as I was looking at this emotional sobriety, I'm embarrassed at how long I've taken this, carried this cross of my crappy childhood, being raised by the alcoholic dad. No food, no, like what kind of dad is coming home today? Like, he's drinking, and he was had lots of charisma, but we never knew what we were getting when dad came home. And there was a lot of times with no food, and a lot of times with, um, you know, living paycheck to paycheck and girlfriend to girlfriend. And that, are you my mom? My dad had a new girlfriend every 2 or 3 weeks, and I would just basically wake him up for lunch money in the morning. And sometimes he had it, and sometimes I went hungry. And there was usually a new woman in the bed. And so I was raised like that. And I thought it was, I never thought it was normal. I always thought I was separate. I always thought that, like, this is, this, this bad card, this bad deck of cards that I got. But the idea that I carried this on to when I'm now 60, and I carried this throughout most of my life into my sobriety until I did many, many 4 steps. I did lots of them. And you know what? My dad was on every single one of them. And it's funny because when we write our 4 steps, I always find I sponsor a lot of people, and thank God I get to sponsor the people that I do. And I got to say that, this is funny that I got asked to do this and to think about this stuff. And I was, because I got to ask to speak at another deal earlier this week. And I was like, God must think I really need some help in being not so selfish this week, because now I get asked twice. But God's good joke of okay, now you're gonna have to think of something, Shan. But I was thinking about, like, okay, so getting ready for this, my shame and my guilt and my humility that I brought in behind my drinking is something that I couldn't let go, like, for a long time. I was at a meeting the other day when somebody said, when does this self-loathing stop? And I actually thought about it when he asked that, and I said, it's funny because it's this I had to learn that here. I had to learn to love myself and, like, actually set aside some of that stuff. I was told by other people that I was loved. I was told by these sponsees. And that's the point I was getting to there, because I kind of lost a little bit. But the point I was getting to was, I was just thinking, God, I've got too many people I'm working with right now. I've got probably 5 or 6 in the book, and gosh, they're all showing up, and and 24 years down the line, I'm thinking maybe I need a little freedom, but that's not right. I mean, I need to be here. I need to be in Alcoholics Anonymous, in with my fellows, in helping somebody else, and getting outside of myself. But this, this idea that, the shame that I brought into alcoholics, into when I got sober, I was always drinking too much, putting myself in a position where I shouldn't be, I don't know what goes along with being a woman and drinking too much. A lot of that, and a lot of ending up places where I shouldn't be ending up, and putting myself in a lot of situations that were, compromising and probably dangerous. And I didn't think much of myself. And I learned to love myself here. And I know the bottom line on the letter, when you read the letter, at the whole thing is that if we get this help by God in relieving some of this stuff, this dependence upon other people, and pivot and start relying upon God instead, that maybe we can come to this place where we can be more loving. And I've felt these waves of love, and with my dad and writing all these inventories, I've I just can't believe like the what I know in every inventory I've ever heard or seen, it's just like it's always the same thing. I could tell you what you're gonna write on your inventory before you even read it. I already know it's there. And I already know it's the mom, it's the dad, and all these people that you love the most, right? For me, I know every like, and I hate to be so arrogant around that, but it's like I guess that sounds like that, but we're all the same. I mean, I feel like the experience of listening to other people's inventories have shed light on myself, and I always get so much from it. And in these inventories, I always had my dad on there every single time. I could not shake it. And I've probably wrote an inventory, um, you know, more than 20, less than 30, and full inventories. And I usually write when I have somebody else write. Sometimes I skip, but dad was always there. And he volunteered to take me and my sister, and and he did the best he could. And I'll tell you that this after coming to this place where he got really, he drank too much, and I won't say he's an alcoholic. Probably I already did, but he's an alcoholic. But he's since passed. He passed a couple of years ago. I loved him a lot. I loved him so much, and he was always in the forefront of my life. And after being mad at him for being a hypocrite and not being there for me, and being a bigot, and being all the things, and being prejudiced, and having all these pipe dreams about all the stuff he was going to do and didn't do, and just all the dreams I heard for all my life. I just got to do this road trip with my dad after all these years, and it came to a place where my dad wasn't paying his bills, and my husband stepped up, and we started paying everything. I mean, we paid everything. He would get a $700 check each month on the first, and he would take all 700, and he takes $699 out of his account and go buy weed. And my husband and I paid his mortgage. We got him out of foreclosure. We bought paid for his cell phone, his insurance on his car, his taxes. I would find out that, because he lived in Arizona, I found out that he wasn't getting his trash collected. And, so I'd have to like get the waste management to come pick up his trash, because he was running it out to the dump. And it was just really, really sad over there. I mean, when he finally passed, I mean, there was, I don't know if they were rats or mice, but, and he was a man who was very proud and very clean, and he was sleeping on a mattress with no sheets, and he wasn't taking the shower, and his bathroom was a mess, and it was just a mess whenever I come out to visit. It was really hard. It was hard to keep him afloat, because I don't know, I really couldn't let him go. And my husband was nice enough to step up. And I don't know if that's dependency or coda or whatever, but I wasn't going to let him just have everything taken away, because at one point they towed away all of his cars, and we had to pay to get him back from from this lawsuit, whatever. But my point behind this is what happened when I took this road trip with my dad. Still paying for everything. I flew into Arizona, like I'd fly in once a year, or at least once or twice, or maybe a couple times a year at least, and go and visit him, and hire a crew to come in and clean up the place. And it was a shit show though, but I picked him up to take him out to California to Dana Point, and got him in the car. And I know the moment it happened, we were in the car, and he was telling me all this stuff, and he was telling me what he was going to do with this hand-built car that he made, and what, he was going to go to Florida with this, and he was going to go down Pebble Beach. Yeah. And he was going to go take this here. And he's like, he's not doing anything. He hasn't done anything forever. And I'm just listening to him. and it melted away. It was just the weirdest thing. I could just feel it melting away. Like every bit of forgiveness came over me. And I just was just like, God, I'm just going to love him. I'm just going to listen to him. And I'm just going to just like, and it was so nice because, we got into the hotel room and it's this skinny little dad. I mean, this guy used to have the thick neck and the thick hands and the thick arms. And I mean, he's a car builder and he's a righteous man. He had 5 girlfriends at a time at one point. I mean, he was a master player, smoking weed, carrying on. I mean, can't even make a joke sometimes. He said, like, that's the guy that they should die. They should definitely take that guy's brain and see what happened at the end there, because you want to see what happens after smoking weed for 60 years, what happens to the brain. But I was in that hotel room with him, and he got undressed and you could see his skinny little legs and his droopy little underwear on him, and I'm just like, oh, I just saw this, like this perfect God's child, like this man that I love so much, and I just, like, every inch of it just melted away. And we got to take the road trip back, and just, I got to enjoy him, and I still go, like, I dropped him off, and of course it was always sad to just leave him behind, because I knew, just how hard it was. And it was really hard for me to leave him behind and let him go. But that forgiveness that I got to experience. And, even though after he passed, it was just so hard to go into his house and clean it up and go through his stuff and have this estate sale where everything fell apart. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. We got totally ripped off. And I had the year of all years. This was a couple of years ago when he passed. I mean, it was in the very beginning of the year. Kenny ended up in the hospital. He had this internal thing where he was in ICU for 10 days, 7 days or something. He was like, I thought he was going to die. My stepdad was in the hospital. He died. My dad went into the hospital at the beginning of the year. He ripped out all of his stuff, he ripped out the cords and everything and took off. They couldn't keep him. My dog died. My other dog had an operation on her back. I mean, an $8,000 operation. I mean, there was a total storm happening, and I got to just experience this calmness that I learned here. I mean, the big time emotional sobriety, because I was like, I was looking at my book, and it was so weird because I journaled, like, in this year. And I looked at what it said, and it actually listed these things, and not to, like, relive my drama, but it listed these things, and it said, I feel totally calm and I feel unconditionally loved. And then it said, I could be full of shit, because like, but this is what I wrote. I don't know where that came from, but I was walking through this stuff, and I felt like, when I was talking to sponsees and people around me, I felt like I was a beacon of light. I really felt like I was handling it. And I mean, it was the shit show to end all shit shows this year. I mean, it was a full year of it. And, and when my dad finally did pass, and I did go and handle all that stuff, and it was really hard, I wasn't, I got to just leave all that behind and not feel any anger at all. It was such a great experience. This idea of, the sex security society, the inventory that we get to write, we get to find out about ourselves, and we go a little bit deeper and really realize, what motivates me. I've been told, I did a fifth step with a couple of the ladies out here, and they told me that I had a sense of, that I had a sense of entitlement. And I was like, I didn't know that about myself. Like, I had no idea. When I go into Nordstrom's, I like to be walked over to something. Yeah, and I wonder at Target why they don't walk me over to the shelf that I need. So I guess I do. And I gotta say that, my husband is not helping my sense of entitlement, because he does call me beautiful and wonderful Shan. And and he did write a book on the care and keeping of a Shan. So he's not helping this situation at all. But I didn't know that I could be loved like this. I really, I've been, I've been taken from the place where I was full of shame. I didn't know if I could ever shake that. I was, monetarily, I was bankrupt when I got here. I was late on my car payment. I was living off some lady for $50 a month. And, basically the Northridge earthquake hit, and I had to move out, and I had to move in with my mom. So I got to hit a crazy bottom when I got here. And I had no intentions on getting sober or staying sober. I thought I would just go move in with mommy for a while, and she would take care of some stuff, and I would move on, and I didn't really think this would last. I didn't think this was going to stick, but I don't know. She prayed for me to hit my bottom, and she said she had the hounds from heaven praying for me too. All of her home group was praying for me to hit my bottom. And I was like, thanks, Mom. That sounds like it's gonna hurt. Like, please don't do that. Like, I wish you wouldn't. Leave me out of this. I'm glad you're sober now, but leave me out of this. But but it happened. It was the perfect storm when I got here. And most of my life I'd lived with a lot of that, the embarrassment. There's this, the idea about the dependence on other people, and learning to embrace the dependence upon God is a challenge. Some days, I always read the We Agnostics to my girls and tell them, this means we agnostic. And if you really look at those second step questions and choices, do I believe, or am I willing to believe, God is or God isn't? I'm looking at that stuff like every day, like every moment by moment, it could change for me. And when I get back into control again, when I'm managing well, now that never got me very far. That my managing well got me drunk, living with some lady I don't even like, about to lose my car, empty bank account and all that. And coming in here and being able to be 100% in a relationship. My husband and I, like, I can't even believe, like, that before I got sober, like this, I had a boyfriend that was basically going to strip joints in the day. Like, I thought that was the best I could get. You could throw me a crumb and I'd be okay. And now I have this husband that I've never doubted his loyalty to me. And I didn't know that I deserved that. I mean, my struggles today daily are obsessive thinking, which I ask for relief. My prayer is always allow me to be calm, allow me to be present and be able to feel peaceful. Like, I want my thoughts to calm down. Like, I actually think about that. And I'm like, I mean, everybody does, right? We all do. But yeah, the thought life is is the thing that is the biggest struggle for me today. But I did, like I said, that guy asked that question in the meeting, when did you start loving yourself? And a couple of people, had some timelines, and, I started learning to love myself when other people told me I was lovable. And I know that's dependence, but it didn't occur to me. It actually never occurred to me. And I don't know. I was just kind of compelled to read this letter today. I got this letter from a sponsee, and then I'll wrap it up, because that's going to give me just over 30 minutes. And I got this letter from a sponsee, and I get lots of letters and notes, and like one time I got a quilt from a sponsee, which was really nice of her. Handmade quilt, the whole thing. But no, like I've received a lot of really beautiful gifts, but probably my most precious gift was this letter that I got from one of my sponsees. And if any of my sponsees are on here today, you can write me a letter too. But just kidding, you don't have to. So she starts out by she says a great story, one that needs to be told. And this is only just a couple little paragraphs here. And it says that there's a couple things here. I'll just skip it because it's not important. I've often felt that what I say over a cup of coffee in my free time has more impact that the words of a professional counselor getting $65 an hour, because I am giving from my heart of my own free will. I am seeing the person as a person, not as a paycheck. Makes all the difference in the world. I am now on the receiving end of this. I take too much more to heart and ponder the words of my Al-Anon AA sponsor, a car salesman. I was a car salesman back then. Than the words of a counselor. That's because Shannon's words are accompanied by a demonstration of love, her willingness to give of her time. I don't know, Martha, the difference between Shannon's words and Gail's words are the difference between a good homemade stew and a can of Campbell's soup. No, give Gail more credit. She's good. She's a can of Progresso soup. And if you want to extend the metaphor further, let's say, for the sake of discussion only, that Shannon is no great cook. She has no culinary degrees, no great imagination, no worldly sophistication, no memories of her pate and the bolognese they serve in the quaint little restaurant near Cannes in the French Riviera. But you take the stew of any cook who stirs and tastes and pinches in the herbs by hand and compare it with a can of anything. No comparison. Homemade's better because it's got more love in it. That's simple. And I'll take Shannon's hearty stew over Gail's watery soup any day. Nothing against Gail. She's good. All of the professional integrity and compassion in the world. She's probably been into the French Riviera too. Just no love in her words. Shannon's got the missing ingredient. What she says is more valuable, more nutritious. My cells crave it. The missing ingredient is love. I tell my mom occasionally what Shannon says, and I think she's surprised too, to see how much good sense comes from the woman. And so I got that gift. And it's, I didn't know. And coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I feel like, I got to learn love here and know it truly in my heart. So I'll turn it back over to Sam.
Oh, yeah. That was beautiful, Shannon. Thank you so much. And you always have been such a warm person. There is a lot of love there. And it's funny that Bob D always talks about how we bring our damp log to the bonfire of AA until it dries out and catches fire, so I always love that. So the way we do this is if you guys have a question or would like to comment or anybody like to share, please raise your hand. But Shannon, you got to play the Hollywood squares here and pick on a couple people, like 3 people. More if you want, but you just got to pick out whoever. Just tag them. Nobody's going to raise their hand for the first 15 minutes maybe. So you just got to find some people on there.
Okay, Kenny, you're up.
All right, there you go.
Well, thank you. And I'll keep this really short. I'll just tell you Shannon and I have been married and I know this isn't a Kenny and Shannon show relationship meeting, but it does fit quite well. We've been married we've been together about 23 years plus. And I think one of the greatest gifts of my sobriety has been, watching the transformation in Shannon from the woman I married to the woman she is now. And the woman I married was absolutely unbelievable. I just had felt like I hit the lottery. And it's like that. And I've had that same experience with the guy who was my first sponsor ever in AA, a guy who gave me a ride to detox 31 years plus ago. I talked to him on the phone today, and he's just one of my best friends. Um, and it's just been this transformation that I've had, and Shannon talked about in her life, this transformation in her father's relationship, and the letter that she wrote, and there's no doubt about it that food made with love tastes better, and so that's just one of those things. It's just this kind of a, you can use that as a little key to the spiritual life, that there really is something to that. And but I've had the chance to sit, and the man that was 13 years sober when I met him, that brought me to my first, drove me from a meeting to detox, directly from a meeting directly to detox. I wasn't sober when I got to AA, and he took me to detox, and I've had a chance, over these 31 years to watch the transformation in him as well. This transformation that Bill experienced, he writes about so eloquently in that letter, and transformation that I've experienced, transformation I've witnessed firsthand in Shannon. And he's an amazing guy. 31, he's changed as much in from 13 years to his 45 years. He's changed as much as I have in the 31 years I've been sober. He's changed just as much. And so I think, it's a great deal to think about this change, that's transformational nature, and what a great what a great meeting you guys have where this is the topic every week. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Thanks, man. All right, Shannon, you gotta pick another one.
Okay, I'm going for Yvonne. Are you Yvonne M?
Let's see if we got
Oh, thank you, Shani. My name's Yvonne. I'm an alcoholic.
it.
I am kind of a spawn of Kenny and Shannon, so this might kind of be the Kenny and Shannon show. Kenny, and the truth is that that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I mean, you guys have been such a pivotal, not only couple but individually imperative in my sobriety, and I am so grateful to say that I celebrated 2 years of sobriety yesterday, and that you guys both, and there's some other women and men on this meeting today tonight that have walked with me, and I've never felt less than. I've never felt more than. I've felt so equal to not only while walking this road, but as just a human being. And like you said in your story, Shan, I've never felt that my entire life. I've always felt different. And these two really wrapped their arms around me and my family, over the years, and with through grace, I got to celebrate 2 years of sobriety yesterday with them. And I too, I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know this life was possible. I kind of, I would, I kind of am, like that too, where I like to be shown things now. Like there's things in life that I didn't know were available to me, and it's incredible. And all of that is because of this program and these steps, and really, sitting, you were reading your letter from your sponsee. And I was like, I want a letter. Like, I want a sponsee letter. You know, like that stuff is precious. You know, that's what like pulls at my heart and my soul. And sitting down and working with another alcoholic it's saved me so many times, and it's just a gift that I get to share this journey with. I couldn't stop drinking 2 years ago, you guys. I couldn't. I did not plan on getting sober that next day. And actually, I was reading Kenny's book, and there was a question in it, and I couldn't answer the question. And it was very simple. It was, what's your favorite color? And I could not answer that. And I still can't today. But what I know is that it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. What matters is that that I have a God-filled heart that I know cares for me more than any human being. But with that, I get to share this life with incredible human beings. So thank you, Shan. I love you. You look beautiful. And thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Can I call in Gary Brown?
Oh yeah. Calling whoever you want. It's your show.
Gary. Is he still there?
Gary, you're up.
Is he still here?
Well, why don't we pick someone else and then we'll look for him.
Okay.
He went to the bathroom or something.
Oh, Jim, you get to talk then.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Jim, alcoholic, and that was just beautiful. You know, after hearing that, I still don't have all the air in my lungs just because of that depth of love. That, you know, you've been such an example. You know, I've been fortunate enough, we go way back, and you know, if there was a picture of what a friend is in the dictionary, it would be you. And you know, it's you know, even just to put it in perspective, I was entangled, emotionally displaced about 1 a.m. last night, and who did I email of all people? Shannon. Not my sponsor, Kenny. And that unconditional love, because she possesses that. And what a teacher, you know, for me. And what I got out of that, Shannon, is, you know, all of the depth and the stuff that we have to walk through is just, you know, once we get through it to the other side, we wouldn't change it for anything. And watching you and Kenny walk through what you have, and especially that year you were referring to, you know, at the end of the day, all that mattered was the people around us and the love that we shared. And that's how I entered Alcoholics Anonymous, because there weren't anything of good, you know, substance to hold me at the time. What there was this outpouring of overpowering love, as it describes there, to the newcomer. And, you know, if it wasn't for that, I don't think, you know, for this alcoholics that I would have, you know, survived with that level of shame and all that darkness. And it's still true today. You know, if I really look at what's going on in my life, and dependences, or how people may be thinking of me or not thinking of me, if I am reading the book to 2 or 3 people or 5 a week, or doing other work that I do consistently, that stuff's pretty small on the radar. You know, I mean, you know, that is the medicine, is that book, We Agnostics, you know, the chapter. But, you know, you guys have read this book to other people, and it's one thing that I will say that's still working. And I love that you mentioned the forgiveness. You know, until in my awakening that I've spoken on this meeting to a few times this past year, had I not had a deep level of forgiveness, I was incapable of experiencing this unconditional love. Things were conditional, you know, and it's just that one person or that one situation, and that forgiveness opens the door to this space. And you know, there's times where we get to be references, and you know, I feel like Job sometimes in life, or going through certain things, and but they're all necessary. You know, if it wasn't for the chink in the armor to open me to the presence of God through suffering, I won't wake up again. So thanks for being a great teacher, and you could not have shared a better 32 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks,
Great
Jim.
job. All
Hey,
right.
Gary,
Where did get? I don't know where he went.
he's right there. See him.
Oh.
I'm back, sorry. Mother Nature had a task for me. So, thanks, Shannon. That was great. You caused me to remember those early days in AA where I was you know, it was mostly just a big fog. I really didn't know what was going on. I had understanding after a few months that if I was going to live and breathe in and out and all that, I had to find a way to stick around. And a part of that thinking, and that was in there, was pretty well convinced that I didn't deserve that. You know, it's just part of the life. I just didn't think I was worth the powder to blow straight to hell. And that was a big part of my early getting sober until I finally got around to people who knew about the book and the steps. And that took 4 or 5 years. I don't remember, but I certainly related to the things you're talking about. And I think today I'm just about one of the luckiest guys in the world. I got a wife that still loves me and has any number of excuses for not to, I think. But that, and I got friends I look forward. I'm a pretty happy camper these days. And if somebody come out and shovel off my driveway right now, I would just be delighted. That would be wonderful. Thanks so much, Shannon. It's so good to see you and Kenny, and enjoyed everything you had to say very much. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody, let's open it up. Anybody willing to share, please raise your hand. And meanwhile, we'll call on Juanita. Because I know she was probably thinking about raising her hand. So I'm going to call on Juanita.
I was looking for another Juanita on here and I didn't see. You know, I had, thank you, Shannon. Shannon, it's a treat to get to hear you twice in a week. That's pretty cool. And to see you, and you know, I think of you, and I think about what a generous spirit you have. The time that Tom and I had the opportunity to stay with you and Kenny in your house up there, and you just were, both of you were just such open hearts, and you just took us around and showed us some of the sights, and it just what I hate about emotional sobriety is the way my heart opens. You know, it's like there is no emotional sobriety if my heart's not open. And so as I'm saying this, my eyes are tearing up just because I think that it really is all about love. You know, it really is about love, my ability to give and my ability to receive love. And if you had told me that I was going to get that, I would have said, awesome, man, that's terrific. That's wonderful. And it was the last thing I ever wanted, you know, when I came in here. You know, it's I really liked isolating and kind of hiding and pretending I didn't care about you all. And, you know, I just very dismissive of people. And what I've gotten because of those steps, and a God that those steps have led me to is this open heart. I was telling Tom, we had our grandson Otis. We're in Nashville right now, and he's 10 years old, and he was at our house, and I can't remember what it was he was doing, but he just pissed me off the other day when he was here in the afternoon. I think it was Sunday, and I mean, he just was like, and I some of it is that we're getting ready to leave, and so there's a part of me, because I don't want to be sad leaving him and leaving the family, that it's like my go-to feeling is kind of like irritation, being bugged, anger. And so I got angry with him, and I sat next to the couch on him, and I grabbed his face with both my hands, and I'm looking at him, and I'm talking to him, and everything in me wants to just like be really pissed and just, get on him. And I had that moment, I had just that split second where all of a sudden it was like, do you really want to do this? Do you really, is this what you want to do? And it was like that pause that we are blessed with. And I could just see myself, and I could just, it was like when that fraction of a second just seems to burst, and it extends, and you can just I could just watch myself at doing my nightly review and going, you're not going to like the way this looks. You're not going to like your behavior. You are being a jerk. It's like, you don't need to do this. And isn't this about love? And isn't that what God would have you be? And as I had that thought, and what happened was my voice and my face started to change, and my hands just softened on his little face. Boy, a friend of mine used to say, whatever the problem, love's always the answer. And love really is always the answer, and this love of other people, the love of self, because if I had done and spoken to him as my initial reaction was going to cause me to, I would not have liked me. I couldn't have stood me. And how do we get that split second? How do we get that moment where we have an opportunity to just pause and do something different? I mean, that requires a depth of connection with God so that I can behave in a manner that is emotionally stable. Who knew, who knew? I'm still blown away by what happened that day, and your talk on Monday when I heard you on the third step, and your talk tonight just kind of just brings it up, at a deeper, more powerful level. And just thank you. Thanks, Shannon. You rock.
Thank you. Well, Shannon, nobody wants to raise their hand. Nobody ever wants to raise their hand on this meeting. Every now and then they do, but it's just like people just like to sit and process. So you kind of got to thump them or pick on them a little bit. So we'll see who we pick on next. Hey, you know what would be fun if we heard from Angel? I know I've seen her pigs and her iguana pictures of it. She doesn't know who I am, but I know Chris, and I've seen that, and I've never met the mother of these little adopted babies. So we'll call on Angel.
The mother of pigs and blizzards. Hi, I'm Angel, alcoholic, and I sure heard about you, Sam. Thank you for everybody sharing this meeting. I didn't know it existed. Emotional sobriety. I just have to say that I have 17 years, and I'm used to doing a lot of service, and in and out of AA because that's what I was taught early on, and it saves my ass because then I'm not like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in here. And lately I've been I'm coming out of it, but just the black hole, and I'll dive down, and like depression is really real for me. And I know, and what makes me crazy is that I know what to do. I know what I know. Like I work with others, I have a sponsor, I do the steps, I do all the things, and then outside help. And I can't fix this. Like no matter what and I pray. I don't usually get on my knees and pray just because I have a lot of war injuries and so my knees are worn out. That's a different meaning. But I've been getting on my knees and just praying, and my prayers are like, fucking help God, because I'm crazy. And I arrived at AA suicidal, and I still have my letter that I wrote actually, and I knew how selfish it was, and I wouldn't take my own life today, but man, I said out loud the other day, I'm like, I don't want to fucking be sober. Like, fuck AA, this shit's boring. I'm tired of all the blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And I know that's not my truth because I love Alcoholics Anonymous and it's saved me, but my brain, it's out to get me. And I eat healthy. I fucking work out. Like I do all the shit. And so it makes me crazy that I'm not fucking my best find ever that I'm gonna give Shannon shit for the rest of her life is that nobody's showing me around Target. I'm like, what the fuck, this bitch? I'm like, to be that happy, joyous, and free all the time, which I usually am. Like I'm a super happy person. So when I'm like want to throat punch people, which that can happen when I'm happy, joyous, and free. I can't lie. But yeah, I like to laugh, and I have really good friends like Shannon and Kenny and Yvonne and Katie and Jim and Lisa and the people on here, and I just had to say that. And it's not always unicorns and rainbows. And what I do know is that this will pass. Early on they said feelings aren't facts, and I'm like, bullshit, because right now it's a fact that I feel like this, but facts don't change, I guess is their point. But anyway, so now you met me, Sam. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You can have
sharing.
this.
Thank you so much, Angel. Shelly, what's happening?
What's happening? I'm in my kitchen. My name is Shelly. I'm an alcoholic.
Shelly.
I am mindfully learning how to make a new salad. Mindful was the first spiritual word I learned 30 years ago. Thank you for your share. Today, I went shopping at a new market because I didn't like the market I was shopping at because I'm in a wheelchair. So I would think that me being in a wheelchair is the same as being pushing those shopping carts. And on my left, there's somebody else with a shopping cart. So it's not even 6 feet, and they're always trying to push through. So I took corrective measures, and I decided I'm going to another market where the veggies are in these big bins and there's space between people, and it was so lovely. So that's one corrective measure I've learned. The second corrective measure was very interesting yesterday. I get acupuncture, so I have to go to the hospital and check in. But with a wheelchair, so the person that's pushing the wheelchair is not pushing it according to what I think you should be pushing it. So I get wobbled around a lot, and that scares me because I've fallen out of the wheelchair already a couple of times. And I got wobbled this time, and I didn't react in a kind and loving tone of voice. And I was trying to defend myself. And I saw that defending my position of not being kind and loving was my selfishness. So, this power that we've been seeking, it told me that I have to pause when agitated, and I was agitated and ask for the right thought. And I was so elated when I experienced that. I says, wow, that's my corrective measure. It took years to get it going. I remember sometimes my husband, he wouldn't do what I think he would do, he should do. And I would just have a screaming shit fit. You know, it took years for the screaming shit fit to subside. And then the love came through again. There was a lot of damage between the two of us, and it took a little bit to heal. And when it healed, there was no more fear, there was love. And I'm very grateful for the 12 steps because they've taken me, you know, like, so you saw in the beginning, they say you take the steps to treat your mind, but there's so much more that I've experienced through prayer, meditation, and pausing, and corrective measures, and intuitive thought, and a whole, and you know, like types of meditation and types of praying on beads, and you know, looking at flames of fire, you know, just to have a couple of tears come out so you could, you know, stay focused, because it's so hard to focus on a flame. You look at the bottom of the flame, like all kinds of stuff, just to quiet the mind. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So when I cook in a meditative, mindful state, and it's really, really nice. And I'm very grateful for that experience. And I use my intuition, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. There's never anything measured. My mother never measured anything. She just did an onion, white pepper, a little bit of water. My brother says all the recipes started out like that. And I guess that's why I use white pepper. He said white pepper you use because it doesn't show that you put pepper in your food. So, you know, when I don't react in a screaming voice, I think I have a handle on it. But the idea is not to be in fear, so I don't have to react like that. You know, it takes years to remember. And then when you remember, when you have to use it, if you don't pause, it's not going to come back. So I keep on trudging, and thank you so much for your share. What I missed about being married, you know, my marriage continued into sobriety, is that we never really had friends that were married also. We always hung out with younger people. So I was thinking about that today. I said, you know, I never had married sober people in my life. And I guess that's how it had to be. There's still a lot of young people that need help. So I continue. And it's nice to see you, Joel. Nice to see you, Juanita. And thank you again for your share.
Man, I was just getting ready to call on Matt, and he had his hand, and he popped his hand up. I was going to pick on you anyway, man. We must have had, like, you know.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to thank Shannon. It's really wonderful to hear you and spend a little time, because I know your husband. He's led a couple of retreats over the last 20 years I've been at, and then he came out to speak at a little conference in the Midwest for us. And I've always appreciated that, you know, that connection you guys share. It's that demonstration of love that you show each other and respect. And I'm a beneficiary of that, right? I mean, I think I've been continuously married almost 16 years, which is a miracle, right? And I'm so grateful to have, you know, some folks in sobriety that I know and that talk about and demonstrate love the way you guys do. And that's just, it's just really important. So keep rocking and rolling, man. That's just a beautiful thing. And Shannon, I really identified so much with a lot of things that you shared. I mean, I went from Legos to Little Kings, and my son is right now at that transition age, you know, and so I'm getting this opportunity to learn to love some of those parts of me that I just really struggled with then. And I really, you know, I watched my mom really go downhill with, you know, drinking. And some people have met her. I think she may have even been at one of those retreats that that Kenny led. I'm not sure. But anyways, it was just really good. So I just had all these memories and things I was connecting with that you were sharing. And another one in particular was, I used to write prayers. I don't always do it, but sometimes, you go through phases. And so I wrote this prayer, and I totally forgotten about this. It fell out of my book in the morning, and I pick it up and I read it. And I was newly married, and we didn't have children, and we were trying to have children, and we didn't know if we could have children. We weren't having much luck having children, and all this stuff. And I had this big prayer of all these things that were like, I was asking God for help and direction and strength. And part of them was, starting a family. And, it was like, I have a 10-year-old, and I find this prayer back from when, I didn't know we could have kids. So it's just one of those things about transformation and the power of God and what happens for us. And it's great to be reminded of those things and to be aware of them, because they happen and it continues. It just keeps continuing. And that's why I'm here, for the love of the people in this room. There's some people here that just attract me by that, by the demonstration of love that they show me. And with that, I'll pass. Thank you so much, Shannon. Good to see you, Kenny.
Thanks, Matt.
Hey, Shannon, you guys, one of the things that I always loved hearing about were the stories of you guys, you and Kenny raising the kids. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like what it was like, what that experience was? I mean, he always makes you out to be like super fun. You have a great story with that. You mind sharing some of that?
Not at all. I thought this was an hour meeting. I was like, we're going way over. No. It's an hour and a half.
We got another hour and a half left.
Yeah. Well, so I always wanted to have kids, and meeting Kenny, of course, I was just like, God, what a perfect dad. And I missed the mark so many times when I was out drinking, and I just didn't get to have kids. And we tried, and it didn't work out. And so, and he had a daughter, and, it was really it was a hard thing for me, because I really, I'm made to have babies. I wanted to have kids so bad. And so, I prayed about it, and it's God's will, and would this happen? Could this happen? And we didn't end up having any, but then Kenny's was sponsoring a woman who ended up getting sick, and she asked us if we would take her son if anything ever happened to her. And like I don't know where it came from, but of course we didn't really think anything was going to happen to her, but it did. And when she passed, Jake came to live with us. And there you go, like, you be careful what you pray for, because you might end up with a 250-pound bouncing baby boy, so that's what I got. And, we had got Jessica, and Jessica, Kenny's daughter, who moved in with us. And, Jake moved in, and he had a snowboard. He's scraping running up along the side of our new house in the paint. I'm just like, it's God's house. It's okay. And, doing all this stuff. I'm just like, he painted in his bedroom. He painted glow paint, and just like death, die, and all this stuff like up in his room. I just let him paint whatever he wanted, because it was in this like day glow paint that you couldn't see in the day, so you can only see when the lights were off. It was crazy. But it was God's house, and this kid moved in, and I can't imagine what, like for him to be 15 and move in with us, and we got God's kid. And with Jessica, I wanted kids. She moved in with us, and I got to be her mom. And I always wanted to be mom, like so bad. And I got to be like the cookie mom. I got to go to the camper Kyla and get to be the designated adult. Although I got in trouble, because I was like, okay, we're gonna gamble tonight. We're bringing, just like I got in trouble, because of course the goody PTA lady, the word got out that, we were going to TP the boys. But anyway, I was like, it was my dream come true because I've never got to go to camp. So I was like, okay, we're going for it. But I got to be the cookie mom for Girl Scouts, and well, that didn't work out so well either because Kenny ate a lot of them, and we ended up definitely losing money on that proposition because I had to keep all the cookies in the garage. But I mean, there would be some great times, man. Jake would do stuff like he would say to Jessica, he'd say, do you want me to see how many pancakes I can fit in my mouth at once? And I'd be like, yes, I'd be like, I want to see this. And Kenny's like, no, like you got to be appropriate and everything. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is going to be too good. And then, and then another funny thing, he would just say stuff like, to Jessica, she'd say, I'm going to go get a drink of water. And he'd say, you're going to go pour yourself a big glass of who gives a shit. And I was like, this is the best. Because I got to the kid was saying all this stuff I would love to have said, but down the line, man, just Jessica came out of her room one day and she just, God, she just transformed, and she was wearing Hot Topics, and she had chains and all that stuff, and it was just, it was brutal. She went from a girl that wanted to look like me and have a poof like me and hair, and she was obsessed with me, and she hated me. And I remember thinking it was one of those God things. It was one of those things where God, and I took it to God. I swear to God, I asked the question, what do I do? Because I am trying to mold this kid. Now I'm trying to form this kid. And I've been trying to form this kid, right? Be a good saver, be a good, all the stuff that I wanted, her to be. And then I realized God just said to me, just love her. And I'm just like, okay, here we're back to love again. But he said, just love her because she's got a mom, she's got a dad. But, me being the stepmom, just love her. And you know what? I got soft and she got soft. It was the weirdest thing. And, I always wanted to be a mom, and I got to participate and she lived with us until she was 18. And with Jake, one day I was just like, I got this friend request. And, he loved his mom. He idolized his mom. His mom did a lot of good things in Alcoholics Anonymous. It has her name tattooed right here. But one day, I got a friend request, and it was a friend request from him requesting me as his mom on Facebook. And I was just like, accept, I was just like, I got to have the kids that I never thought I was going to get. I got God's kids. So, when I sponsor people and they're having trouble around that, I get to be the one that says, you know what? You don't know what package they're going to come in, and you don't know what's down the road. So before you get all miserable behind things, I got the gift of being able to raise those kids. So that's basically my deal around the kids. Jake's coming over this weekend, so next weekend. So this weekend.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Katie, I think you had your hand up for a minute and you might have put it down, but now you can't take it back. No, take it back.
I'm Katie. I'm an alcoholic, and honestly, I don't know how long this meeting is going. So, but I have to say, gosh, I love Shannon so much. I am one of her sponsees, but I'm not the one who wrote the letter or made the quilt. So I gotta get some game here. But I have been so blessed to have Shannon as my sponsor. And when I got sober and I was in AA, people said find someone who has what you want. And I was like, I kind of, just being sober, I'd like to not drink. So there was a lot of options. And then I went to Magnolia speakers meeting, and I saw Shannon, and she was just glowing and floating. And I was like, oh my God, could I ask her? Is that allowed? And it was so scary to think wow, who am I to ask for that, to have that in my life. And it was, I swear it was even more scary than like getting married, like asking Shannon to be my sponsor. I prayed and I was like, I knew if I asked her that this woman does not put up with bullshit. Like, this is it. If I'm going to ask her, I'm going to do the deal. I'm going to work the steps. I'm going to do what she says. And that's it. And so, I'm thinking, gosh, I don't know, like that's a lot. And then on the other hand, it's like, this is life and death. This is life or death for me. So I asked her, and we met and we talked and she said a prayer and, she said, yeah, you need to go take a walk and think about this. Get back to me in an hour. And I was, oh my God, it was so amazing. I went for a walk around Green Lake and I was just elated that, I knew that I was going to ask for this. And then she said, yes. And oh man, she put me to work and I did it. It was the perfect relationship. And she was so like loving and I couldn't, I didn't understand where that was coming from. And it was the most amazing thing. And when I did my amends, I had an amends to my dad. And I was flying to Santa Fe to meet him to Albuquerque for the day. And I had a 5 a.m. flight. And I was flying back the next day. She took me to the airport. She woke up, drove me to the airport, said a prayer, sent me on my way. I did it. I made the amends. I came back the next day at a little better time, like in the afternoon. And she picked me up and she took such good care of me. And, now I get that because in turn, the love that she gave me, in return, I want to give to my sponsees. So I really just want to thank you, Shannon. Your share was amazing. I could listen to you for hours. I even have her speaker tape in my car, but and it's good. But this meeting has been great, and I love you, and I love Kenny too. So thank you.
I got to pipe up real quick though. Did you hear her say that she went to go make that amends? She got on a plane and then came home the next day. Hallelujah. AA gold right there. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I love that. Let's see. Kurt, what are you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Thanks, Shannon. I had Linda bring up we're usually in the office when we're doing this meeting, and I had her bring that up. And, I can't help but think about, and I've shared this in this meeting before. I hope it doesn't sound redundant, but the part in that letter that really, really gets me is I suddenly realized what the problem was. Like that revelatory kind of insight. And it wasn't by the mechanics of the steps. It wasn't by, that probably led up to it, but it was like when he says, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't be released from this depression using the steps. And I guess it's my experience. That's why I relate to it so much. I suddenly realized what the problem was. And that kind of insight, or I'd say knowledge, doesn't come from the head. It comes from an intuitive sense that sometimes gets activated by the steps, or sometimes gets activated by a deep collapse, or sometimes I think of the other part in Bill's story where he says, the significance of Winchester Cathedral burst upon me. Like all of a sudden he knew. And this is gnosis. This is knowledge that doesn't come from the intellect.
Mhm.
And I think this is where I remember Mary was saying this one time. This is our thought life on a higher plane. This is the ability to access something we couldn't access before through reason, through moral and philosophical convictions, through effort. And the reason I'm talking about all this is because what it gave me access to when I suddenly realized what the problem was, I had this deep experience of, you could say, being loved or experiencing love or experiencing forgiveness or grace, or you could say a whole bunch of different things. And when you have an experience like that, you can't help but see that that's accessible to everyone. In fact, you can't help but see that everyone's trying to reconnect to that. And that's the beauty of AA, what we're doing here. Like when he references the new guy, I mean, that was my excitement in the beginning. I was so excited about the way the first 43 pages were laid out, and they almost caused a collapse just by the process. And so when we'd meet with new people, we would like just be so excited to help them understand they don't know what they don't know, just like I didn't know what I didn't know until I knew it. And the emotional sobriety is, for me, is the ability to respond to life rather than react to life. And that response comes from that place. It's not a fear-based reaction. So thanks, Shannon, again. Kenny, good to see you. And that's it. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Kurt. So we got time for one more. Does anybody want to share? Anybody want to raise their hand?
Yeah.
Sandra, call on Sandra.
Sandra.
Are we right?
Mute it.
I think so.
Sandra. Sandra here. Oh, Sandra Jenkins. What's up, Sandra?
Yeah. Sam,
My
what?
new friend.
Glad. Good to see you.
New best friend. I really love emotional sobriety, and like it with like the depression and like what am I gonna do? And I remember I hit this point in my sobriety, like I've not been sober nearly as long as a lot of people here. I'll have 4 years in August, but like I just like hit this point where it was like I'm working steps, I have a sponsor, I have sponsees, I go to meetings, I'm doing all this stuff, and it's like, why do I still feel like shit? Like I don't know what to do. And it's like kind of this meeting, I just know like I have just heard so many things that I can practically implement in my life that like kind of relieve some of that stress. Like, that's what's really cool about all of this for me. Thank you, Shannon, for sharing your story. I really do appreciate that, and like I relate to that in so many ways, like, you know, with my parents and like things we had to go through. Like we were raised like 100% Pentecostal, and like everything looked good on the outside, it was shit at home, and just like doing so much stuff, and like just every other share in here. And I just want to say this, like, what's your name? Kurt and Lisa, I think. Every time I get on the meeting and like I hear both of you share, I swear to God, like I just want to like Linda, I'm so sorry, not Lynn, not Lisa, Linda. I want to live in your living room. I just feel like it's amazing there. I feel like it's spiritual. And so I don't know, just come on here to listen really. When I miss it, I ask Sam for recording sometimes. And I'm grateful for all of you here. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good to hear from everybody. Shannon, we're going to wrap this puppy up. Is there anything that we might not have addressed or you might have thought about that you want to share in addition to anything that maybe you thought about while other people were sharing?
Well, I was thinking about in the letter, well, something came up to me is that, I don't know that I'll ever know God, like, because God, like is so big and so like outside of my realm of understanding, but I want to continue to seek God. So that's my closing statement.
All right. Well, beautiful. So this is how we do this. We just thank you again for your time tonight. What a great share. Appreciate everybody coming. Good to see everyone. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the change of scenery in Kurt and Linda's place quite yet. I have to get used to not much on change. I was really in, but I'm maybe warm up to that eventually. So what we normally do is we just mute ourselves and we go to our inner room because it sounds like a schizophrenic bad dream to me. Like when you hear everybody praying over the, you got 100 and something people with a delay, it's just really creepy. So I'd rather just do it internally. We just mute ourselves and go to our inner room. And for those who care to join me, we'll say the Lord's Prayer to ourselves. Thank you. Amen. Great job, Shannon. Thank you.
Good to see you, Sam.
And good to see you. And I will send you a copy of this recording so you can pass it on with, the next day or two. And